What has been happening recently is that I have been working within historically preserved homes that now function typically as house museums throughout the region of New England, but specifically in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. And each of these homes has, notable history or notable relationship with African Black culture within New England. As it relates to either slavery or domestic service or labor. From my undergraduate thesis, which is titled The House Servants Directory, and pulls its name from this book that was published in 1827 by a man named Robert Roberts. Through some familial, ancestral work that my late grandfather and great aunt had been doing together, they discovered that we have this paternal connection to Robert Roberts, and he is technically my fifth great grandfather. One property that he worked in one of the suburbs outside of Boston, in Waltham, and that property is called Gore Place. I started engaging with the museum staff at Gore Place, because, I was really interested in material histories and archive work in general. And so all of these things sort of came together, and they quickly sort of allowed me into the home, and gave me access on a weekly basis to come there and photograph. So the project sort of grew into this, interpretation of Robert Roberts' language. But the book is split into these two modes of instruction. One, the first half, where he's narrating lessons on behavior and emotional attitude and psyche to two younger African-American men that he knows will be entering household service. And then the second half is a list of 100 plus tips and tricks for the profession in terms of managing, a home of this size. Within this work and the work that I've been making recently, I've been thinking a lot about hauntings, and that has come up in my critiques, and, the sort of overlay of ancestral interference, that there is well-established, well-documented presences of Black life in New England, acts of slavery, forms of slavery in the region. And I thought, this could become a practice of me, for me to intervene, or just enter these spaces as they stand now. The project sort of really fell into these categories quite naturally about how I enter the work and how I write about the work and what objects appear. There's room for much more open interpretation of how these spaces operate. The sort of steps that I am working through now is, how much contextual information is needed about each site. A part of that step, sort of restructuring how I am thinking about the research, is, there are the real lives lived within these homes that are documented and that I can speak to and can conjure up. Simone Leigh, a contemporary artist, talks a lot about remaining underground in terms of her work, and some of that I'm trying to balance the two. Each of the homes that I have been visiting are markers of colonial history. Their preservation, I would say, is not completely random or, it was not inevitable. These are the homes of the wealthiest people in the region, and were likely to survive the test of time, both in how they were built, and it operates as a monument of the culture of the time of conquest, and burgeoning capitalism, and the objects inside are voiceless but are charged when you begin to pick apart the material history. Like how to identify those possible moments of contradiction or of resistance and power, if the objects of the oppressed don't exist. How does my body relate as something that can't be cleanly defined or manipulated, and therefore will forever be a site of resistance? Is it the Black body, my body? Is it the gesture? Is it the knowledge that the work is made by a Black artist? A part of me has looked towards the landscape as being the open space to push towards abstraction. If there is an experience or connection not documented and interpreting that space in the same way, like that has currently been my solution to, I guess, viewing the unknown. I think there is some nuance to having the history be seen. I think it is enough in some contexts. Yeah.